Hi everybody, welcome back. Today is August 25th. That means I have about a month, maybe just less than a month until my deer hunt starts. So I really need to get this muzzleloader dialed in at 202 yards. So today I'm down in a wash. I've got enough distance uprange to shoot out to 235 yards. I'm going to start by shooting at my deer target at 202 and continue my zeroing process to see if I can get it dialed in at 202. Then I'll take it back to 235 and see if it lands at the bottom of the circle. Then I'll come up to 117 or whatever it is, and I think that should land at the top. Anyway, I'm gonna go uprange, get all my gear set up, and then I'm gonna try and record through my spotting scope to see if I can pick the hits on the target from uprange. Stand by for that. Okay, that round was a low left off of that stick there. I'm going to send another one just to confirm. This is round number 2. Okay, that one looks like a much better hit. The elevation's spot on. Windage is off to the left a little. I do have about a quarter value wind right to left. I may have to hold right edge of that dot. I'm going to clean the gun, stand by for the next shot. Okay, this is going to be the third round from 202 yards. I'm going to keep the same point of aim. I haven't adjusted the rear sights. I want to see where this third one lands, if it's closer to the first round or the second round. Okay then, that is a huge group. Okay, here we are. I took the walk of shame back to the target. That group is quite large. It's about 7.5 inches tall by about 3.5 inches wide. I placed that little piece of tape with a blob of mud on it to kind of show where the center of the group is at. So I'm going to go ahead and measure off of that to about the center of the dot and use that to come up on my elevation. Then I'm going to go back to 235 yards and send 1 or 2 rounds and see where they impact. I'm going to go ahead and patch up these holes with some tape and paint, and I'll go reset on the tripod at 235 yards. Okay, 235 yards. I've got a half value, maybe 3/4 value wind blowing at about 6 miles an hour, pretty steady, but it's gusting up to 10. There's a storm off to my south, it looks like, southwest. So I'm gonna send this shot and see if I can't get the 117 shot too. I'm gonna try and hold the right edge of the target and see where this round impacts. Oh dang, that's almost centered. Okay, I'll take that. Clean the gun, move up to 117 and see if I can put another one in there. Okay, here we are. I had to double check my drop chart, but it is 115 yards. So now with a dead center aim, the bullet should strike the top of the red circle. We're gonna see if that happens. Hopefully this is the last round I have to fire and I can call my damn gun zeroed. Oh wow, that was a wide miss. Holy cow. I might have to do that again. Okay, I'm gonna try that again. I'm gonna be a little more careful. Try not to rush a shot. Okay, that's kind of strange, but it is what it is. It just landed right on top of the other one at 235 yards. About the same wind call too. I may have to adjust a few clicks to the right just to compensate for that, but I'm gonna pack it up for the day. I think my gun's okay at 202. I may have to come to the right just a little bit, but that's for another day. Okay, I made it back to the shop. Got cleaned up, got my gear put away, marked up my target, and took some notes. So today was pretty eventful. It was pretty productive. I fired 6 rounds out of the gun, and everything seemed to go the way I wanted it to. So I fired the first round at 202 yards, trying to get my gun zeroed, and it landed way down here, low left. I fired a second shot, and it landed up here near perfect elevation, but still a little left. And the third shot landed down here next to the first shot. It was 2.5 inches apart, maybe 3 inches apart. So I marked up the center of the shot group, and it's somewhere in here. It wound up being 3.5 inches low and 5.25 inches left, and the total group size was 7.75 inches, so 7 3/4 of an inch, which is big. So I decided to make an adjustment. I adjusted 2 clicks up on the elevation before I shot at 235 yards. And at that range, if my 0.4 MOA per click is correct, it should only account for like 1.88 inches of elevation added at that range. So then I shot at 235 yards, and it impacted almost center, but still biased off to the left. Now I did hold off to the right of the dot because I had that 6-mile-an-hour wind with 10-mile-an-hour gusts. I was happy with that shot, so I went ahead and moved up to 115 and fired another shot, and it landed way over here. So I'm not sure if the bag slipped or if I jerked the trigger, or maybe I was kind of rushing it. I decided to clean the gun, loaded 1 more round, and it landed just above the 235 yard shot. So some things to note about this. Up until this point, I've been using the small aperture on the M16 sight to aim with, and it's very constricted. Since the aperture's farther away on the gun than it would be on an M16, it's a really small peep, and it almost covers the whole front sight, and you don't really get a very good view of the target. So today I decided to switch to the big aperture, the 02 aperture, as it's marked. And all of the shooting I did today was with that aperture. So some of these weird rounds that are off from all of the others that I shot may be due to me not lining the sights up properly, the front sight in that big aperture. So I'm debating whether or not I want to drill out that small aperture. That big aperture is 196 thousandths of an inch. I pinned it with a gauge, and the small aperture is only 69 thousandths. So I may drill it to 90 or 100 thou. I think that's about the size of the aperture that came on the gun, the Williams sight. I think it had a 90 thou aperture, and that would allow me to see more of the target, and I think it would be easier to center the front sight in. That's just a side note. Another thing I was curious about was if a 6-mile-an-hour, 3/4 value wind would blow my shot group that far off target at 202 yards. So I ran a new ballistic calculator or drop chart, because the chart I have, I didn't account for wind. And a 10-mile-an-hour, 3/4 value wind would move me 8 inches, while a 6-mile-an-hour, 3/4 wind would move me 4.8. So at 202, my group was 5 1/4 left, it's very possible that that 6 mile an hour wind is what moved that group that far over there. I can't explain why 235 landed so close to center. Maybe I just shot at the right time when the wind was null. And then 115, it would have less of an effect, but it's stacked right on top of 235, so there's a pretty good chance that the wind was dead when I fired both of those rounds. So those two rounds at 235 yards and 115 yards were right about 2 1/4 inches from the center of that dot. So what I've decided to do, I'm going to make a windage adjustment on the rear side of that gun. I'm going to move 2 clicks to the right, and if my 0.4 MOA per click value is correct, that should move me 1.6 inches at 202 yards. So I'm making an assumption there. I'm assuming that since my elevation tracks about 0.4 MOA, that my windage is going to track about 0.4 as well. I read that there were 2 iterations of M16 sight, and the older ones were like 1 MOA elevation by half MOA windage or vice versa, and then later on down the road they changed it to half by half. So I'm just going to assume that it's correct. It sounds right to me. I'm going to put those 2 clicks on, and it's going to move me a little bit closer to center, but not right on it or past it, which is going to leave me a little room for error there because, again, that aperture is so big that it's hard to center that front sight in there. So another thing to note, these rounds did not impact where they should have impacted per the MPBR theory. With my gun zeroed at 202 yards, the 235 yard shot should have landed down here at the bottom of the target, while the 115 yard shot should have landed up here at the top of the target. I can't explain why it did that other than the aperture's too big for me to center that front sight in there consistently, and I could be moving around in there and not getting a good sight alignment. So I'm not mad about how it shot. I'm actually very pleased with it, but I don't think it's quite reliable. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that my gun is zeroed at 202 yards. I've got a full box of bullets left. I can practice a little bit between now and the hunt, but I don't want to go too crazy with it. I'm going to save them until it starts to cool off and gets closer to the end of September, and then I may take a couple of shots a few days before the hunt just to see if anything has changed. Overall, this MPBR experiment and project, it's been fruitful. It's been fun. I've learned a lot. I shot a lot out of that gun, and I feel like I've gotten better. I'm happy with the way the M16 sights turned out. It's pretty repeatable. I can make adjustments and see the impact on target, the difference from one to the next. I just got to decide if I want to drill out that aperture or not. I'm probably not going to do it before the hunt, but maybe afterwards I can do a little more tinkering. I don't know what's next. I've got a new rifle I put together not long ago. I spun a barrel on a Winchester Model 70 Action. I chambered it in 7x300 WSM. I'm working on load development on that right now, so I may take the camera along while I'm doing some of that. I did a pressure ladder to try and find pressure, and I shot an OCW, 25 round OCW target to see if I could find an optimal charge weight. I'm still below pressure. I may push it a little harder and see where it goes. I've got the 6.5 Grendel that I've been working on practice rounds for my daughter to practice with, so I may do some film on that as well. Stay tuned for new projects. If you made it this far in the muzzleloader project, I appreciate you tuning in and checking it out. If you have any concerns or suggestions, anything I've done here that you disagree with or you think I could have done differently, or you have a better way of doing it, please let me know, because I'm all about learning. I want to be the best at this that I can be, and sometimes a different set of eyes can see something that you might have missed and and make you better. I'm open to that. So thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for the next one.